my own words with yours truly, your man, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciating every single last one of you for tuning in to the show. But as we dive into the first topic of conversation here, and it's on one Nick Saban. I mentioned on Monday that Coach Saban was on the Crimson2go Sports Network over the weekend, on last weekend, and he was speaking with the likes of Eli Gold, the voice of Alabama football, former Tide quarterback John Parker Wilson, former Tide defensive back Rashad Johnson was on the show with him. Of course, the special guests were athletic director Greg Byrne, ESPN's own Reese Davis, and the conversation on the Alabama Athletics Summer Update show was just trying to see what Nick Saban, Coach Saban, has been doing this summer. As a family man, as a grandfather, we heard about the funny competitive scooter race between Coach Saban and his granddaughter. But the other thing Saban mentioned was how he is very proud about the veteran leadership, the experience, the older players on the team stepping up, taking an initiative this summer in helping the younger players and setting the tone for this upcoming season. Coach Saban said, and quote, having the veteran leadership, having the experience back has been very, very helpful. These guys have been sharp. These guys have been on the P's and Q's. They've been dead on, assisting the young players with what we have to do, how we have to do it, the importance it is to execute it in that way, shape, form, and fashion. So big ups there to the leadership guys on the team in getting this done. And of course, there are a lot of guys on this roster that are stepping up in leadership roles, but Coach Saban singled out a few guys: Najee Harris at running back, Alex Leatherwood on the offensive line, Dylan Moses at linebacker, and of course Devontae Smith at wide receiver. And just starting things off here with Najee Harris, the young man has been working his tail off all summer long. We're talking about a guy that's actually put together a YouTube channel right now, and on the YouTube channel he's showing us the fans how he's going about his training, how he's going about his exercises, the different exercises he's coming up with, the different training regiments he's been in. So Najee being very focused in trying to make sure that he runs the football with patience, but with aggressiveness. He's bouncing plays to the outside. He's catching the ball out the backfield. Najee Harris is wanting to make sure he puts the total package on the field in the upcoming season. So he's the first guy. But next guy, Devontae Smith at wide receiver. And, here's a guy that prior to coming back on campus on June the 1st, he was back home in Louisiana working with former Alabama defensive back Robbie Green, a New Orleans native, on route running, on hands, on speed, on working back to the quarterback, getting back to the football, comeback routes, doing everything possible to make sure he's got all the chemistry, all the camaraderie with either a Mac Jones or a Bryce Young, just having that chemistry within the offense. Devontae Smith working more so on his game, so it's good to see him, out there continuing to get stuff done. Third guy, Alex Leatherwood. Leatherwood has been putting on a tear, this summer as well, trying to become more of a pass blocker, an effective and efficient pass blocker, especially when you talk about containing, neutralizing those speedy edge rushers from getting to the quarterback. This past year, the native of Pensacola, Florida, though he did grade out at 89% on all of his assignments, he did give up 2 sacks this past season against Kangavon Chason of LSU. So Leatherwood wants to make sure that this season, when he's facing those guys that explode off the line of scrimmage and trying to create pressure to the quarterback, he's there, he's defending, he's neutralizing, he's shielding, he is keeping the quarterback play upright in the pocket there. So Alex Leatherwood 3, and then last but not least, Dylan Moses at linebacker. And we all know this story right here. Coming back from injury, did not play the entire 2019 season because of a knee issue. He's back. He's healthy. He's been going through the things in the film room, in the meeting room, helping out, with young players, catching those guys up to speed, along with doing his thing also in the in-person, voluntary weight training with David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray. So Coach Saban very pleased with that group of players. And I've mentioned this before about how these guys were the guys that, 2018 and 2019, preferably last season, they saw what happened firsthand, right? They saw what happened when I don't pay attention, when I don't listen to Nick Saban, when I'm not focused on the details, when I don't take what this coaching staff is telling me into consideration, I see what happens. Alabama football loses games. Alabama football is not winning championships. It's not winning the SEC. It's not even beating LSU or Auburn. And we do not want to see that happen again. And because we don't want to see that happening again, we as the leadership players are going to do everything possible to pull the younger guys with us, as well as continue to, process everything that Coach Saban is telling us to do. And it kind of, it takes on the connotation of, remember the Clemson team in 2018, and that defense that had the likes of Cleveland Farrell on there, Christian Wilkins on there, Austin Bryant, Kendall Joseph, Dexter Lawrence. A lot of big-time players were on that Clemson team in 2018. And this was the same Clemson team that it lost to Alabama the year prior in the college football playoff semifinal in New Orleans, 24-6. That all of those guys from that group defensively, they could have all went pro. Most of them had first-round draft grades on their names. But because they did not want to go out that way, they did not want to be remembered that way, they told Coach Sweeney, Coach Dabo, we want to come back. We know we can go pro. We know we can go get that money. But we know this is not the Clemson way. We did not go out winning a national championship. We did not go out. We did not finish the season accomplishing the goals that we had set. So all of those guys decided to come back for another year, which was 2018, and they were able to get the job done policing, their teammates, policing the program. When I look at this year's Alabama team, Najee Harris could have went pro. Just snapped the latter part of a 2019 season. Could have went pro. Chose to come back. Devontae Smith could have went pro after this past season. 68 catches, 1,256 yards, 14 touchdowns. You had quite a few NFL draft scouts going, this guy could sneak into the back portion of the first round and get in there. Smitty decides, hey, I want to come back. Alex Leatherwood could have went pro. Dylan Moses could have went pro. You had a guy in Joshua McMillan. He didn't have to come back for his 6th season with this team, getting the medical red shirt. So all of these guys that could have went pro decided to come back to Alabama. Why? They saw 2019, that's not us. That's not Bama. That's not how we want to be remembered in terms of the football program. So all decided to come back, and all have decided to ensure Coach Saban and the rest of the staff, we're going to have our act together. We're going to have our stuff together. We, as the older guys, we are going to police this team, the leadership council. But Alabama had in 2015, 2016, 2017, it's got the pieces to have that back in the 2020 season. Coach Saban really excited for the older guys taking that leadership step there. But we're going to go to another break here on the show, but don't touch that dial. Upon our return, we dive into your questions, thoughts, phone calls, tweets, texts, and concerns after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care. In support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
All right, Tide Nation, we are back in from the break on the hottest show on the streets, the number one form of Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information on a Wednesday in my own words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And we're joined here live once again by the man, the myth, the legend on the recruiting trail, the family affair. We got Justin Smith in the building as always to talk 2021 recruiting as it's heating up. Justin, good to have you back in here.
It's always good to be here, Stephen.
Always fantastic to have you in here, Justin. Well, this coaching staff for Alabama really excited about recruiting for this 2021 class. It's really, really heating up here this summer. And after Monday, Alabama picking up four-star defensive back Devontae Smith out of Ohio. It picks up another four-star and outside linebacker Dallas Turner out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And me talking with you said this is a very, very special talent. How big was this landing Dallas Turner? How happy is Alabama right now in terms of Charles Huff getting him?
Well, I think the Tide's coaching staff is extremely excited. You can just take your simple look at Twitter and you can see all of those guys tweeting.
Everybody's got a graph now.
Yeah, tweeting out how excited they are about Alabama picking up Dallas Turner. But this is a huge get for the Tide. Of course, they're keeping that momentum going on the 2021 recruiting trail, now picking up 10 commits in their 2021 recruiting class, basically picking up 9 commits since the month of April, and I think that's in a 3-month span. That's pretty remarkable by Alabama's recruiting class and by Alabama's coaching staff, just basically pulling in those guys and adding to the 2021 recruiting class. But this is also a huge pickup based on what Dallas Turner brings to the football field. This is a kid that stands at 6'4" and weighs 245 pounds. He's an explosive edge rusher, and during his time at American Heritage in Plantation, Florida, they use him as an outside linebacker, edge rusher. You know, that is where Alabama uses their outside linebackers at the most. So he's going to be used to rushing off the edge and bringing pressure to the quarterback. This is a guy who racked up 16 sacks as a junior. So this is a guy who's used to rushing off the edge, but I think his overall athleticism is what makes him special. This is an outside linebacker, defensive end type of player that lines up at wide receiver in the red zone sometimes and goes up and get the football against smaller and quicker defensive backs. Yeah, that was impressive with his nice vertical going up and get the football, but what I was really impressed with was his ability to get open. He was hitting cornerbacks and smaller guys with moves off the line, so I think that was really impressive. So this is an impressive athlete all around in the 2021 recruiting class.
Coming from American Heritage High School, the same school as one Patrick Surtain II, so dipping back into Florida. And speaking of Florida, Justin, it's Nick Saban and this staff really hitting the Sunshine State. Dallas Turner, a Jai Hall, a Ja'Cory Brooks, J.C. Latham, Christian Leary. I mean, the list goes on. What is down there in the Sunshine State that Nick Saban's going, I got a well right here, and I'm keeping this one?
I think those Florida guys are built a lot different. I remember when I took a trip down to Florida recently when I got a chance to check on Leary. I actually checked on him at a 7-on-7 game that was not coordinated by anyone. This is a game where the kids just got together and say, yo, let's go do a 7-on-7, and that happens a lot in the state of Florida. They take the sport of football very seriously, even as high school kids. And also when I was there, former Alabama defensive back and current NFL defensive back, Clint Dix was even there getting in on the fun. So this is something that is just in the state of Florida, in those guys from the state of Florida. And when you see those guys, they are trained and they are different. Like I said, they're built a little bit different when they're from the state of Florida. And I think Alabama is far from done from the Sunshine State in the 2021 recruiting class. You can name so many different guys that the Tide is still going to recruit from the state of Florida. Looking at Terrion Arnold, Xavier Sorey, and so many other guys you can bring up when you're talking about the Tide recruiting the state of Florida. Of course, 2021 5-star cornerback Jason Marshall, another guy Alabama is picking up momentum with on the recruiting trail in the 2021 recruiting class in the state of Florida. I will also put Keno Coate, a 4-star defensive end, in that mix as well, along with Chambry Jackson, another Orlando, Florida prospect. So you can go on and on with the Tide recruiting the Sunshine State.
Well, folks, if you're just tuning into the show here on a Wednesday, we got the lead scouting and recruiting analyst, Justin Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, talking 2021 recruiting for the Crimson Tide. The biggest news of the day right now, Dallas Turner, the four-star outside linebacker from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, giving his yes to the Crimson Tide, the 10th verbal commitment. So, Justin, more happiness for Sal Sinceri.
Yeah.
As the outside linebackers coach, are giving him King Wakuda. He's got Will Anderson, he's got Drew Sanders, he's got so much talent, and now you add in a Dallas Turner with this mix. Should he sign? What does this do for Sal Sinceri? 59 years old, older coach. He's on these guys. You know, recruits like him because he tells those guys the truth. What does this do for Coach Sal?
I think this adds to an impressive outside linebacker room that Alabama will have in the future. Just based off the guys they pulled in the 2020 recruiting class, that was a really impressive group from Drew Sanders, Quandarius Robertson, Will Anderson. All of those guys made up an impressive 2020 group for the Tide. Also, Chris Broswell. Now you add on Dallas Turner and possibly Ian Jackson, a guy who could possibly play outside linebacker as well, although it is unclear if he can play there because there's a possibility that he can play inside linebacker or defensive back. But I think this just adds to an impressive outside linebacker group that the Tide is bringing in, guys who are really going to thrive off rushing, off the edge, and I think things are going to get pretty exciting in Tuscaloosa when it comes to those edge rushers and those young guys with a lot of potential.
Now, the one guy recruit that has really been helping out on the trail for Alabama is Kane Williams, of a defensive back, and he's been tweeting guys, he's been contacting guys, he's been interacting with guys, and upon Dallas Turner making his move, you had JaQuincy McKinstry come out and is like, yo, is this going to be a top 3 class or what? And then you had Kane Williams making a tweet back saying, just come on home, bro. How much has Kane Williams meant on this recruiting trail? And do we see JaQuincy make a move because of this? He may not, but what does that tweet from McKinstry mean?
Well, as far as Kane Williams, I actually had him on the last episode of the process on Tuesday, and he actually discussed what he was doing to help the Tide recruit, reaching out to guys, telling them that, yo, if you want to be where you want to be, come to the University of Alabama, just do what you got to do, and you will definitely be there. So I think Kane Williams is a huge part of the Tide's 2021 recruiting class, and I think JaQuincy McKinstry is set to announce a top 3 schools. He has always said a commitment could come at any time.
We're live here, folks. If you're just tuning in to the hottest show on the streets here in my own words with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. I got the man Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine here, talking 2021 recruiting. Justin, people talk Jeff Banks. People talk Tino Sinceri. People talk about all these coaches. Charles Huff is starting to hit now. Yeah. You bring in a J.C. Latham. Now here comes a Dallas Turner. When you talk to young guys about Charles Huff, because he's kind of the guy that's not quite mentioned a lot. I know when he was at Penn State, he did a great job of Saquon Barkley, who's in the NFL with the New York Giants. How are people reacting to Charles Huff in terms of the recruiting trail?
Well, I think Charles Huff is doing an amazing job. It's pretty evident pulling in guys like J.C. Latham, Ja'Cory Brooks, Devontae Smith, and now most recently Dallas Turner. I think he's really doing a great job of connecting with recruits. I think that's the biggest thing as far as the recruiting game, building a relationship so players can trust you, feel that you're for them, and just feel that they can trust you 100%, the player in their family. So I think Charles Huff has done a great job of painting a picture of what the University of Alabama has to offer its student athletes on the field and off the field, which was a huge reason why Dallas Turner announced his commitment to Alabama. I think the university really sold itself very well to him and his family. So I think Huff paints the picture pretty well. He has done an impressive job. Probably his most impressive thing was pulling in J.C. Latham. Of course, it looked like Alabama was an afterthought in his recruitment for a period there, and Charles Huff quickly turned that around. So I think he has done an incredible job. I think his biggest moment is yet to come. A guy I will look at is 4-star running back Donovan Edwards, who Charles Huff and Alabama's offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian is in contact with a lot lately, and I think that's the guy I'll pay attention to. If Charles Huff can pull in that kid who looks like a Michigan lean at the moment, if Charles Huff can pull that off, I think that will be the cherry on top of a great recruiting class as far as Charles Huff pulling in commits for the Tide.
Alabama pulling the whole thing of, the first half of the national championship didn't go right. Second half, put two out there. We're going to do our thing. Alabama taking that step here in recruiting. But, Justin, I know the coaching staff has been talking about we're not done yet. We could have another recruit come in this week, not done yet. But I remember talking to you. You were talking about how, it could be somewhere down the month. Alabama could land another commitment. It could be something. It could be in the continuation of the summer. Yeah. So who potentially could be next, possibly be next down the pipeline as this coaching staff continues to have the fan base highly excited?
Well, I'll put Jaquissi McKinstry and just in the conversation. I don't think he's going to commit, but he always says, he can come at any moment. I can wake up and want to commit.
He loves to give people a heart attack, man.
I just put him in the mix just to say he's in the mix because he's definitely, a commitment could come from him at any time. The Brockemeyer twins, because as I always said when I joined you, a commitment could come for them during the summer just based off them having a limited time to visit during the football season, but they could hold off and wait until the fall as well. Jason Marshall, a 5-star cornerback out of Florida, another Florida prospect. That's another guy I would look at as far as the Tide making moves for him. It's a couple of other guys you look at. Kendrick Blackshear, a 4-star linebacker out of Texas. Also looking at another guy out of Texas, former Alabama commit, Latrell McCutcheon. He is set to announce his commitment in the coming days. It looks like it may not be the Tide, but the Tide, it is a former Alabama commit. He has a great relationship with Alabama's defensive back coach Carl Scott and Alabama special teams coordinator Jeff Banks. So it is definitely something to look out for. So those are a couple of guys to watch at the moment. But of course, recruiting is flowing rapidly. Guys can make a decision at any time. Going back to Christian Leary, he didn't know he was gonna make a decision that day. He just waited and said, I'm gonna make a decision, and he called the Alabama's coaching staff. So these are kids. They can make a decision at a split second and at the drop of a dime.
He's Justin Smith, ladies and gentlemen, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, joining us to give us the lowdown on Dallas Turner, the 10th verbal commitment for the 2021 class. Justin, as always, man, we appreciate you, man, for all the insight, news, and notes that you provide. We're going to take another break here on the show, but upon our return, we entertain your phone calls, thoughts, tweets, questions, concerns after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are rocking and rolling, folks. Back in from the break on a Wednesday hump day. Hottest show in the streets. #1 form for Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information. In my own words, with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. As always, got the man John Ivory on the ones and twos as he does each and every single time. We appreciate you guys for being a part of the show. And we jump into now Alabama at the wide receiver position. Alabama at wide receiver. And what's incredible is the beautiful thing about college football. The beautiful thing about Alabama football is you never know which player could be maybe the surprise player. You never know which player may sneak up on you, rise up out of nowhere, put on a show. You never know, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, for the Crimson Tide, these athletes get the opportunity to kind of have a job interview in front of Coach Saban, a job interview to see, which one of these players could pop, which one of these players could be successful, which one of these players could be really, really big time in terms of being that next man up, being a part of that next wave of talent, getting on the field, showing Coach Saban, I want it better, I want it more than everybody else on the field. And just when you look at this wide receiver room here for a moment, at one point in time, and this was after, of course, Julio Jones left for the NFL, Crimson Tide had Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was the main guy, but there were moments where Kenny Bell would catch a big pass from A.J. McCarron, and fans would be like, man, he's quick. And then, Amari Cooper would be the main guy, but A.J. McCarron or Blake Sims would hook up with DeAndre White on a fade route or a post route, and fans would go, my God, he's a great route runner. Or, Amari Cooper was the main guy, but then when A.J. McCarron needed to play more than what he needed his next breath, he would go find number 83, Kevin Norwood, and fans would go, my gracious, he is always at the right spot at the right time. And then, as much as Amari Cooper was the main guy, Christian Jones would get lost in the shuffle, and the quarterback play would find him. So, even though Amari Cooper at that time was the big factor, was the number one receiver, was the presence that everybody was focused on, you always had a surprise. Someone else would step up in a big moment to make a big play. It was a new wave, a different wave. Somebody different would make, a huge play, in the receiving game. It was the same thing, when Calvin Ridley came in. Calvin was the main guy, but there were moments where Ardarius Stewart caught the football and people were like, oh, okay, AD, Savage Sledgehammer, we see you. Calvin Ridley was the main guy, but there were moments where Richard Mullaney, a.k.a. Slotty Pippen, the graduate transfer from Oregon State, would make a play and folks would be like, was that? Okay, Richard Mullaney, we see you right there. There were moments when Robert Foster was healthy, when Cam Sims was healthy, they would make plays. The same thing with, you had Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, and Henry Ruggs were all freshmen at the time. Later on, they would make plays. And then, of course, as that trio got older, people put the whole spotlight on Jeudy, but Ruggs would catch a play and burn you. Devontae Smith would catch a play and burn you. Jalen Waddle, this year, the last couple of years, has caught plays and burned opposition. So while people put the spotlight on one player or a couple of guys, the surprise is always, who's the next guy in line? Who's the next man that not many people know that could pop, that could do something that could be really, really special here for this group? And just, when you look at this group of wide receivers, people pretty much have an idea of Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. I mean, these are the two leaders. These are the two elder statesmen. People know what to expect from these two. Coach Saban knows what to expect. The coaching staff knows what to expect. The fans know what to expect. The opposition knows what to expect. Even the media, even at times we have our moments of ignorance. The media, even we know what to expect when you look at Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. We know what these guys are capable of. The question is, who's the next wave? Who's the next guy? Who's next to pop? And for me, I sure thought it was going to be Tyrell Shavers. Boy, was I wrong. That young man is now at Mississippi State. You have a lot of people that have their chip stacked to John Mechie, and I really like John Mechie. I mean, this is Calvin Ridley 2.0. This is Calvin Ridley, Canadian twin. I would not say that if I did not believe it, and I wholeheartedly believe it. I mean, here's a guy that wore number 3 before he switched to number 8. The body structure similar to Calvin. The hand similar. The route running similar. The explosive playmaking ability similar. But on top of that, I know we've seen him more so in spring games, but he got on the field quite a bit last season, was able to make a couple of plays on the field. So a lot of people are like, they're wanting Mechie to pop, and Mechie's a good option. But you've got guys that have their chips stacked to Slade Bolden. And Slade Bolden, the Gatorade Player of the Year out of the state of Louisiana in 2017, went to West Monroe High School. Here is somebody that shares the same story as the New England Patriots' Julian Edelman. When Edelman was in high school in California, he played quarterback. He played quarterback in college at Kent State University, Coach Saban's alma mater. Of course, when he got to the NFL to play with the New England Patriots, he was switched to wide receiver. But when you watch Slade Bolden, you see the potential to Edelman. But not just Edelman, I see potential to Wes Welker as well. The toughness that Welker played with, his ability to run the option routes really, really well. He made the option route what it became. And so when you watch, Bolden run routes, you get a little bit of Julian Edelman. You get a little bit of Wes Welker in his game. And also he's got the ability to throw the football as Slade Bolden, a former quarterback. He can run the Slade cat formation at the backfield, picking up yards with his legs, can do a little bit of everything. And then last but not least, a third guy here, you got Xavier Williams, a young man out of Florida that not too many people talk about, but he could be a surprise. He could be a pop. He could be somebody that can say, hey, coming up out of the water coming out of the water at you, and you didn't really expect, him to do that. Alabama's also got 3 freshmen in Javon Baker, who's cutting up in summer, thus far. Thayu Jones-Bell, also Trayshawn Holden at 6'3". So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really captivating to see who is the surprise, who's the next wave, who's the next man, because part of being that wide receiver U that the Alabama program, the coaching staff, and the players love is they're able to find that next wave of talent. They already have an idea of who the main couple of guys are, but justify that next wave of talent and have it pop instantly. But folks, if you want to know, or if you want to have the best news, notes, information, and coverage on your Crimson Tide, it's very simple, very easy to do. You can do this, get this by downloading the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you've got the Android phone. For your audio listening needs, we got you covered, whether it's iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, Overcast.fm, or iHeartRadio. We've got you covered. If the good and gracious Lord sees fit, I will return on Friday, continuing the conversation that is Bama football. As always, folks, you can also purchase your individual copies of the magazine, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. There's a link in the description. You will get those copies sent to your door. But until next time, folks, husbands, love your wives. Wives, appreciate, value those husbands. Children, be sure to continue doing those things legitimately now to not be bored. Get you those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself. Protect the loved ones around you. Until next time, folks, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith, and this has been In My Own Words.